we're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Baseball Through the Decades. This session, we highlight the 1960s and Bucknell baseball during that era. We have some great guests tonight, and we also have head coach Scott Heather and one of our current players, Austin Odell. I'd like to introduce our guests, and then I'll turn it over to Coach Heather. Before I do that, I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor for this session and for all they've done throughout the pandemic to help keep our community safe. All the people at Geisinger on the front line have done a great job for us, and we're really thankful for all the Bison athletics. Our guest tonight, our first guest, is from the class of 1962, and that's Ken Twyford. Ken lettered in 1960, 61, and 62. He was the team captain in 1962. He was an All-Middle-Atlantic Conference second-team infielder also in that season. He was ranked fourth nationally in homers per game in the 1961 season. He was an all-conference selection on the football team and a key member of the 1960 Lambert Cup championship team. Ken was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2011, and he was offered a bonus to sign with the Kansas City Athletics following graduation. Our next guest is from the class of 1967, Bob Zavorskas. Bob lettered in 1965, 1966, and 1967. He was the team captain during the 67 campaign. He was an All-Middle-Atlantic Conference honorable mention selection at shortstop in 1967, and he won the Albert E. Humphreys Award as a senior at Bucknell. Our final alumni guest this evening is Vic Siegels from the class of 1970. Vic lettered in 1968, 69, and 70. He was the team captain of the 1970 team. He was an All-Middle-Atlantic first-team selection at shortstop in 1969, leading the team to the league championship that year. He hit .416 during that season, which still ranks as the sixth best single-season average at Bucknell. 50 years after graduation, Vic still holds the Bucknell record for hits in a game. He had 6 against Juniata on May 6, 1969. He was also a co-captain of the Bison basketball team. Vic won the Albert E. Humphreys Award as a senior. And our current player on the call tonight is Austin Odell, a junior right-handed pitcher from Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. So, Coach, we've got a great group. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, and thank you guys for jumping on with us. Hearing all those accolades, definitely wants to make me put you guys in the lineup and stuff. If you had any ability left, Vic, who was throwing for Juniata that day?
I'm sorry?
Who was throwing for Juniata that day?
I don't know. Obviously, he wasn't that good. But it's kind of funny because one of my classmates at Bucknell worked at Juniata, and every time he saw the baseball coach back in the 80s and 90s, he would remind him of the fact that one of his good friends took advantage of them that day. So, yeah, I had one of those days that you don't get very often. If they had a lottery, I think I should have bought a lottery ticket. Things were just working for him, to say the least. Yeah.
And it still holds. That's great. Well, good deal. We'll get started here. Ken, we'll start with you. Kind of take us back to the beginning and how you wound up playing baseball at Bucknell.
Wow. It started through football pretty much. I went to Germantown Academy in Philadelphia, and my football and baseball coach was Ed Wallace, and he was a Penn guy, played with Ben Nerick. And my basketball coach was Dick Harder, who coached eventually at Penn, Oregon, and the Indiana Pacers. So I had some really great coaches. Anyhow, because of the Penn connection, we had 2 guys that ended up going to Wisconsin when Odell was there, 2 guys, two football players. And they both contributed very nicely at Wisconsin. And so it put us on the radar. Jim Fraser was this guy's name. And so Odell, I guess, got some names from Jimmy, and we were on their radar, and couple letters, and we were waiting for some plane tickets to come to fly out to Wisconsin. And They never came. And next thing I get a call up from the AD or the football coach, Ed Lawless, and Odell is in the office and wants to see me. So, I mean, fast forward to kind of a visit at Bucknell in the spring. I guess they had invited some accepted students and student athletes up for the visit. And it really, my parents were really not involved with the process, but because my dad worked for a company that had season tickets at Penn, Odell was really, almost like God to my dad. I mean, so they came up, and between Odell and Newcomb, there wasn't any other place for me to go. And part of my agreement there, because I had the good fortune of playing on a Legion baseball team that won the state championship 2 years in a row. We won 54 games in a row over 2 summers. My understanding with Coach Odell was that I would be able to play baseball in the springtime, but his reasoning was I had to go my freshman year to full-time spring practice, and then sophomore year I could go to half the practice. So anyhow, it's a kind of a Penn connection, but it was Odell and football that kind of got me there. But baseball is a big part of my life, and he knew that, and he kind of compromised on some things to kind of make it more inviting for me to attend.
Yeah, that's great. It doesn't happen as much anymore. We have a guy doing it, or did it this past year, and there's a lot of good players that I think could, Bucknell could benefit, on both ends. As we see on a lot of these calls, a lot of football, baseball guys really had great careers at Bucknell. Bob,
Scott,
how about you?
Yeah, being from Connecticut, Scott, I had actually started organized baseball at 7 years old. Even before Little League, I was in a PAL league. And so baseball basically was my sport, but it had to be a question of either UConn or Bucknell. And oddly, I got put on the waiting list at Bucknell. And, I wrote a letter to Fitz Walling expressing my disappointment. And I put a PS down the bottom. I said, I hope acceptance from the waiting list isn't according to alphabetical order. And about 2 weeks after that, I got the acceptance. But anyway, I was very confident I could play baseball at Bucknell. I had already played 1 season in the Cape Cod Baseball League with some pretty talented people. And the only disappointment was that Bucknell at the time only had freshman baseball. We weren't allowed to play varsity. But in any case, I certainly was after a real good education, and was confident that I could have a good career at Bucknell playing baseball.
Oh, that's great for sure. Vic, how about you?
well, I was recruited for basketball, so I went to Bucknell as a basketball player, and I played for Don Smith. But like back in the day when you could play 2 sports, I think everybody wanted to compete, and you played baseball in high school and you played basketball, and back in my day you could play 2 sports. And going back to the football guys, we probably had 5 or 6 football players on our baseball team who didn't want to go to spring practice. So that was a way to get out, was to go play baseball. And so we had 4 or 5 key players that were football players that played baseball for us in 68, 69, and 70 and that. So, and back in the day, as we know, we only played, 20 games max if you get them in based on the weather. And, the season didn't start till mid-March. You went down to Florida. And, but to me, it was just great after basketball, to go outside and be with guys and play a game that I also love to play. And so we were fortunate to be able to do that. Today you can't do that anymore.
Right, for sure. And I certainly try to recruit those multi-sport athletes, and I really think they blossom in college. I still go for those type of kids.
Right.
Football and basketball players. I love those type of kids. They do like to compete, and those are the ones that really truly continue to
Right.
get better, year to year
Exactly.
with that. And
Yep.
and they've handled a lot of different things. Maybe they were the best baseball player in town and just okay at basketball, and they've been coached a lot of different ways. I think it works out, well to.
Well, for me to spend, almost 50 years in college athletics and that as I did in my career, there isn't a coach that I knew that would love to have a multiple sport athlete to recruit them because they love to compete, and that's harder to find today than ever. The
Right.
kids that they play so many games, and I don't know if they really. Sometimes I'm not sure they care if they win or lose. They're just playing games. But you want someone who really hates to lose.
For sure. I
Amen
like
to that, Vic.
Yeah, they're hard to find today. Trust me.
For sure. Well, Vic, we'll come right back to you. Kind of describe the baseball experience for you at Bucknell in the 60s and you graduated in 70. Where was the field? All that type of stuff. Where did you travel to play? What was the experience like?
Well, I played for Tommy Thompson, who, Tommy was really special to me as a coach because he coached both basketball and baseball. And in 1968, we didn't win a game. And then in 1969, we got a bid to the NCAA tournament. And ironically, the school would not let us go because we're in final exam. So I think it was probably 10 years later that Bucknell baseball made it to the NCAA baseball tournament, But I in 1969, we were really playing well. And there was a guy on our team named Randy Ruger who led the nation in hitting. He probably hit like 495, I think. Randy played football. And if he had played when they had metal bats, he might have hurt somebody. That's how I've never seen it. And I spent 17 years at Arizona State and 10 at Long Beach State. So I saw a lot of great baseball players. But Randy Ruger was really special, and nobody hit the ball harder. And he was a kind of a defensive back, linebacker, safety in football. And he was just a great player. And we just had a team that we got hot, and we had a pitcher named Tony Zadanzik who went to Bucknell to play football, but after his freshman year, just played baseball. And he was a real deal. And then he hurt his arm his senior year, or his junior year, my senior year. And obviously we weren't quite as good. So we had a great experience. We won a lot of games late in that season. And we took a doubleheader from Delaware to win the MAC championship. And Randy Ruger hit a home run. I think we won 15-14, something like that. There were probably 7-inning games. It was a doubleheader that we won that day. So it was kind of cool. It was a great experience.
For sure. And yeah, Vic, I wanted to ask you about that in terms of, our guys had a similar experience this year with losing their season. And obviously you won it and had a chance to go to the, kind of the NCAA tournament in those days. And I've always admired how you guys, handled that. Surely a disappointment not to go to the tournament, but, some of our best supporters and all that. What advice could you give to Austin and kind of how you guys handled that and able to
well, Austin, I think in the end, ultimately, it's about your team. And I've always said over the years, all the teams that I spoke to say, hey, you take care of your teammates. And I had a great experience at Bucknell, but my teammates in basketball and baseball, they're most important to me. So I think what you do is you rely on those experiences that you have with your teammates, and don't ever lose that, Austin. It's in fact, I talked to my college roommate this morning that he played basketball, Jim Wary, who's in the Hall of Fame, and he still has, I think he averaged 19.5 points a game. And again, we only played 3 years because you couldn't play as freshman. And but I spoke to him this morning. He's come down to the shore next week. We're going to play some golf. So I stay in touch with my teammates, and yeah, you don't always have the great experience. Frank Aronowitz, you guys may know Frank. He was a trustee for a number of years. He and I talk all the time. He played baseball, and it's about your teammates. So you it's a sad commentary in terms of what happened, but it's like anything else. What's most important are your teammates, and just stay together and always take care of each other. That's what you got to do.
I love that. Thank you. Bob, how about you? What was it like for you playing baseball at Bucknell and all that type of stuff?
Well, it was definitely over at the old field near the football stadium. I'm still trying to get rid of some slivers from the 2x12 wooden bench that we had,
Right.
but it was a good field, and we played some incredible games there. Playing off what Vic had said as far as the experience, it was all about our teammates were all individuals, but the key to it was playing as a team, and it was a learning experience as far as the discipline of competition, learning your limitations, your strengths, and playing to that. So, but it was all about the camaraderie, on field trips and so forth. And Vic, you would probably relate to this. Our southern trip was as far south as Virginia, where we played Richmond, Randolph-Macon, William and Mary. Very often we had to dust off some snow before, the double.
Well, we took a bus. We took a bus to Florida. We took the Bucknell bus to Florida. So
wow.
One comment on that one, Tommy Thompson, our coach, he got tickets for a spring training game with the Yankees. We were in Cocoa Beach, and he said, "Who wants to go to the game?" I think 3 guys wanted to go to the game. Everybody else was going to the beach. So that was to get on the Bucknell bus and go to Florida was there's a lot of bonding that goes on in that kind of a trip.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Bucknell bus, I mean, I also played basketball and was quite familiar with that. I'm not sure what year it was, but it was a vintage bus where we burned a lot of oil as well.
Oh yeah, you jumped on the bus early because you get the back was all the way across, so you could see.
Right.
So first guy in the bus got the back of the bus, and that was the best place to be. And the bus driver was Calvin. I don't know if he was the bus driver when you guys were there, but Calvin was our bus driver. Yeah, he was part of the team.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we didn't fly anywhere. The bus was our mode of transportation. And one other thought I would just impart. Bucknell is all about getting a good education. And I remember my senior year, I was an economics major. And second semester, I needed this grade from a Professor Horlacher, who was a real tough nut when it came to, my way or the highway. We had a very important game, ironically, against Juniata. And it was an away game. Horlacher scheduled an exam the same afternoon we had the game. So I went up to him the day before saying, "Professor Horlacher, I'm the team captain, and it's very important I play this game tomorrow. Can I take the test, an hour before the bus leaves?" And he said, "Absolutely not." Just stressing the importance of where I think just about anybody in the administration felt about weighing the difference of academics versus athletics.
Sure.
I took that economics course also, and at least the elementary economics, kind of intro to economics, I guess. And everything was based on the final. I mean, that was your whole grade. If you did well on the final and you got a B, you got a B. That was a really difficult situation that I don't know whether Horlacher changed, in 8 years or so, but that was there's a lot of pressure.
No doubt about it.
For sure. Well, good. And Ken, how about you? And describe your Bucknell baseball experience.
Well, we played on the old field too. In fact, I thought that was a pretty good field. I remember going over the ground rules with the ump a little bit, and they had some overhanging trees in left field there, around the cyclone fence, and I guess it was a ground rule double. I mean, if you hit the ball in left center, that ball traveled a long way. My guess is it was 400 feet or plus, and it was only a double. But I mean, there were balls that got caught in the trees that would have gone over, and they came down inside the fence. So that was kind of an interesting situation, but I thought it was a good field. There was good visibility. I actually ended up playing one summer for the Lewisburg Pioneers because I did so well in class that I had to go to summer school. But that was a good experience too. I really enjoyed playing with a lot of guys from Lewisburg area.
For sure. And were the Matheson Gates kind of situated in center field, or where
Yeah.
was
What was that again? Sorry, Scott.
the Matheson Gates? Were they situated?
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
center field?
Yeah.
Field.
I'm not that old. In fact, I hit one out there by that scoreboard one summer. I thought the guy was never going to catch it. It was I remember really smacking the ball, and the guy was playing out there to start off with in front of that scoreboard, and he caught the ball. It was a piece of cake for him.
Right.
So, I mean, that was a long way to that old scoreboard out there.
Did you guys ever see anybody hit one over it?
No,
Monument? No.
that was 450 feet, I believe. That was a long way to dead center to Christy Matheson Gate. Inside the park home run, you could do that one. I think I had one of those, but no, nobody hit it over there.
The only guy I ever heard of that, it's rumored that he may have done it, was Mike Ditka was playing there, and maybe one of those summer ball games. And
I played in that game.
You played?
I was in that game. Well, yeah, Ash and his brother, we both played for Bucknell, and Mike was there. He was so big, it looked like his uniform was painted onto him. They had to have the biggest uniform, that they had in stock, I guess, and he smacked one. It was a long way. It was down left center, I think, but it was well into the trees. It didn't come down on the fair side of the fence either.
I like it.
Hey, Scott, the facility that Bucknell has now, the baseball field and all the amenities that go with it. I've been out on the past alumni baseball weekends. I've been out with Larry Knoll, who was my second baseman. We were like the Keystone Cops during our time. But it's been really enjoyable to come out and see the new baseball facility. And I just tip my hat to the school for making such a beautiful facility for everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a great place to play and watch a game too. Now we have the grandstand, nice elevated view, and as the weather gets better, we definitely have some good crowds out there, watching the games and stuff.
Austin, you have a great indoor facility too, Coach. I mean, that indoor facility is awesome.
Yep, for sure. We get a lot of use out of that. And the big thing with the field turf that we have now, we actually get to practice on the field before the first game. I don't know if you guys got to do that, with the snow and all that, but my first, 5 or 6 years before the field turf, we really didn't get that chance. We practiced on the football field. We practiced in the field house. But now with the field turf, even this year, we were out there all but like 4 or 5 days, which is huge. Most years it's about every other day that we're, on average, that we're on the field. The snow melts on it. We can plow it if need be, and it's really a blessing to have the turf. And when it's not good enough, we can go inside and get a lot of work done in the field house too. So there's not many days we can always find something to do for our guys, which is great.
Hey, Scott, our spring training was the annex of Davis Gymnasium, and where we threw and fielded some ground balls and stuff.
Sure. I heard about Tommy hitting some ground balls on that basketball floor. For sure. But Austin, why don't you go ahead and ask the next one?
Yeah, so first off, I just wanted to thank all of you for being here today. It's a great experience for not only me, but my teammates and the whole entire Bucknell program, to be able to hear from you guys and learn from you guys. So my first question is, what advice would you give me or any of the other players that are on our program today about the college baseball experience at Bucknell? We can start.
We can start with you, Kent.
The primary purpose is your education, obviously, and you don't want to waste that opportunity. It's a great opportunity at Bucknell. I don't think I took advantage of that as well as I could have, for sure. Athletics sort of got in the way. I didn't really emphasize the educational part of it. But I think one thing that I did learn at the end, I was a math major, and I didn't have a lot of applied math during that whole process. And as a senior, I got into some advanced statistics courses with a Professor Mendenhall, who actually was an outside consultant for some major companies in central Pennsylvania and eastern Pennsylvania. And he really sort of took me under his wing, even though I wasn't his best student. And because he knew I was struggling as to, where I could possibly go for a job. And he helped me with quality control engineering and that kind of stuff. And once I got out of the service, I remembered that I was only in for 6 months in the Coast Guard, but you had to fulfill that obligation. In fact, I got drafted before I even learned that I had graduated from Bucknell. But at any rate, Professor Mendenhall was a tremendous resource for me to kind of give me some direction. And I would just encourage the players to take advantage of Bucknell is supposed to be, and it is, there's a low student faculty ratio. Take advantage of that. Get to know the professor in your major field for sure, and see what kind of advice they can give you as you get near graduation. And maybe they can give you some ideas on where you might make an application, what kind of career to consider, all those kinds of things. Professor Mendenhall was a great professor. The only thing that I didn't do was one of my first jobs was RCA in Lancaster here, and I was a quality engineer. And there were a couple of designs of experiment that I got thrown into, and I probably should have asked him for some help, and he would have very willingly, I think, provided that help. That's the kind of guy he was. And I'm sure that they still have some professors like that, but I would encourage you to kind of take advantage of the academic side. Even though I didn't do that, that's one thing that I think I really missed out on when I was at Bucknell.
No, I like that a lot. That's one of the things I talk about in the recruiting process. One of your best resources at Bucknell will be the actual professor. They're going to be teaching the courses, and that relationship is so important. And they do a great job for us. They do work with us on taking tests now. I'll administer some on the road and all that. And really, I think it's a positive thing. They do work with athletes, pretty well. Vic, how about you? The same question for you.
I just think, Austin, you need to just really appreciate the experience. I mean, I think it's a given that, academics come first. You are at a great institution. But to me, it's like, can you appreciate the experience? Because a lot of times I think student athletes, and to be a student athlete, to be in college is the best time of your life. And to be a college athlete, there's nothing better than that. And to be at Bucknell and a student athlete is as good as it gets. And so you need to really appreciate the experience and appreciate all your teammates and your coaches and everybody else. And the other thing is, you're going to be, you're junior or senior? You're going to be a senior?
Rising junior.
Junior. Well, the thing is, like, compete every day. Just don't leave Bucknell and ever think that you didn't give it 110%. I just think that's, to me, is like that's part of life. And the great thing about athletics, and certainly college athletics, you learn to compete to the next level. So, what you're learning now to compete, just don't leave anything on the table. Compete every day. Try to get better academically, socially, relationships, athletically, obviously, baseball. So just compete every day and get better. And I think and then when you get out, what do you major in?
Economics.
Economics. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Undecided as of now.
Undecided. Do you throw 95 miles an hour?
I do not know.
Okay, then you got to figure out what you're going to be when you grow up. So, but again, network. When you get out in the workplace, it's just network all the time, because you need to find mentors and people who can help you along, and which is no different when you're in college too, with your professors and your coaches and everybody else. So you'll do well. You got a great education. You're in a great place. So enjoy the experience, but compete every day.
I like it. Bob, anything to add?
Yeah, well said, Vic. And Ken, I would say it's all about competition, and further to what Vic was saying, celebrate your winnings, both on the field and the classroom, but learn from your losses. And Lord knows in baseball, if we had a 50-50 500 season, it probably was a good year, or a reasonably good year. But we learned a lot from some of the losses as well. Networking, another key buzzword. I'd encourage you to talk to as many people, whether it be professors. I know in my day, the Bucknell placement service was huge in lining up companies to go interview with. And I don't know if the situation still exists there, but that was a tremendous resource that was right in our backyard, without having to go, that was the starting point of going to secondary interviews and so forth. If you're in a fraternity, talk to, you're going to be living with, or the guys on the team. You're all in the same boat. Continue dialoguing with them, getting ideas, following up with them. And again, it's competition. Do as well as you can, and you'll succeed. I mean, there's a lot of luck involved too. I know in my situation where opportunities come up and you have to seize them. And they don't happen every day. But in my career, I spent over 40 years in the lumber and building material industry, working for any number of companies, and it's all because of who you know. You build your own network, and Bucknell is an excellent place to start it.
I like that, and thanks for your answers. And one thing about Austin was, he had surgery and he was coming back from that this year. He wasn't able to play, but he was the best teammate throughout the year, just always looking for ways to help the team and be a part of it and make the most of it, even though he was, hurt for the year. Had surgery and now is working his way back and really looking forward to getting him back on the mound.
Austin, was it Tommy John surgery or what?
Was, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So he may come back throwing 95.
Yeah, man, that's it. Maybe he's going to be throwing 95. That's right.
Might be 96.
Why not?
I like it. Well, great. We'll start with Ken. Just maybe your best or most memorable, experience as a Bucknell baseball player. Take us back to that.
Well, our southern trip was to play Navy, and Navy had good football at that time. They still do. And Joe Bellino was the man. And so we're playing, and I'm playing shortstop, and he hits one to me, and I take a little extra crow hop because I figured I'm going to gun him out at first base. He was 2 steps past the bag. I can still remember that as though it happened like yesterday. The other thing, I guess.
Ken,
yeah.
you need to tell them, because they don't know, that he won the Heisman Trophy and that he had legs that were like unbelievable, So he was a special player. I don't think Scott knows who he is. Joe Bellino.
I guess you're right. I'm sorry. I sort of assumed that.
Yeah, well,
everybody
we're old.
knew.
So we understand that. We're old. We get that.
Well, his thighs were like unbelievable. They're like most people's waist. And you would figure a guy that was built like that, like a fire plug, couldn't run very fast, but he could run very fast.
Right.
And the other thing, I guess, we ended up beating Syracuse up there one time, and there was a cyclone fence in the outfield, and I hit one well over the fence that went out fair, but it landed foul, and the umpire called it foul. I think there was a guy on base, so we would have had a couple more runs instead of winning by 1. But for some reason, that sticks in my craw. I can still hear that call and remember the ball going out clearly in fair territory. So, I mean, there's, those are some not so good memories, I guess, but there are memories nevertheless.
Right. It's funny what you remember. And sometimes those are the things like, yeah, for sure. A home run that didn't get counted would certainly be something that I would remember forever as well. Wow. Bob, how about you?
Well, I would say First off, being named captain of the team. I mean, we had any number of real talented guys on the team, and it certainly was an honor being named captain. Also, winning the Humphreys Award for multiple sport athlete. I mean, I lettered in basketball, but again, baseball was my major thrust. Being named to the NBC conference as a shortstop was very important to me as well. And then lastly, this happened right after graduation, after I had already accepted a job, after I had already gotten engaged to be married to my wife of 52 years. I was drafted by the Cincinnati Redlegs in a very late round. It was like the 42nd round. And it was a standard contract that didn't even compare to where I was going. And I felt that it was just important to start my career at that point. As difficult as it was to turn down going to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, playing A-ball in the Northern League. And Tommy Thompson had played in the Northern League also when he was in the Detroit Tiger chain. And I asked him about it before I made my decision. Not that he influenced me one way or the other, but he just said, you know, your butt's going to be in a bus going 200-300 miles in between cities, playing doubleheaders one day, doubleheaders the other day. And I had done that a lot, you know, playing in the Cape Cod Baseball League. Not that we traveled a lot, but we played over 50, probably 55 ball games in a very short season. So, but anyway, those are basically the highlights of my baseball experience emanating from being at Bucknell.
Sure. And yeah, I used to talk about those Northern League days with Tommy a bunch. I played in the Northern League myself, and you know, we played in the same stadium that he played in, and you know, a lot of memories and stuff for that, for sure. But appreciate you bringing that up. Vic, how about you?
Well, I got drafted by the U.S. Army in 1970, and so I didn't have any other career after that. But without question, it was, you know, winning the MAC championship and beating Delaware in a doubleheader on the last day of the season, and Randy Ruger hitting a walk-off home run to win the game. And it was, and I don't think you could ever, you know, individual success is one thing, but having a team success like that was really special. And you know, I missed my 50th reunion this year because of COVID. So I intend to be there. You know, next year, I'm sure they'll have us back next year. But to see Randy and you know, Luke Corelli be out there next year, and Chris Riley and a bunch of guys that, you know, we shared a special experience, and that's what it's all about. So it was a special time. And I don't know if you remember Brad Tufts.
Sure.
I remember Brad. And Brad, it's funny because Brad, he never forgets anything. And I actually had a cousin a year ago. Two cousins went to Alaska, and I don't know how they run into Brad Tufts and how my name comes into the picture. I'm sure he said, Bucknell, hey, you know, my cousin went there, and Brad Tufts was, you know, being Brad Tufts and knowing all that stuff. And I just think that's what's really special, that Brad remembers everything. We remember everything. We share it all. And, you know, it's a special experience to be a Bucknellian and you know, win games. You know, that's always, it's more fun to win. One thing I learned in the business for 50 years is like, it's more fun to win than not win. So that was pretty special.
For sure.
And he's a Colgate guy too.
Yeah, he is a Colgate guy. Yeah, Brad still remembers everything, and I think he's
You're right, absolutely.
In South Carolina, whatever it might be. But you know, Fitz Walling was mentioned, and Dick Skelton. You guys know Dick, and my college roommate, he was a football player, and he actually been recruited by Penn State. He was a basketball player, and Dick Skelton tells a story. He wasn't sure if he was going to admit him, and he says, "Are you going to play football or basketball?" And Jim Wary says, and like I said, he still holds the scoring record for career scoring record. And of course, they play a lot more games now. But he said, no, do I look stupid? I'm going to play basketball. And that's when Dick Skelton decided to accept Jim Wary into Bucknell University.
I like that. I like those.
Special times, special memories. Yeah.
Those are great stories. I actually live in Fitzwalling's old house.
Yeah.
I bought it from his daughter, a few years ago. So we live near the golf course, and I always love to hear those stories. There's a bunch of them out there, and that happens to me all the time too. In terms of if I wear a Bucknell shirt or have a Bucknell bag in the airport, somebody will come up to me and talk about their experience or their cousin's experience, how much they loved it. That's never happened to me, but anywhere else but Bucknell, for sure. One thing I wanted to ask you about the '69 championship, was that during house party weekend? Is that true?
Oh yeah. I mean, that was a heck of a party that night, by the way. And I can see it all. I can remember it all. And I think Brad, the reason why I mentioned Brad was because he tells everybody we won a lacrosse championship, and I think we won a tennis championship and a baseball championship all on the same day, which was a Saturday of house party weekend. So needless to say, there was some partying going on in Lewisburg at the Fiji House and the Sigma Chi's that particular night. Yeah, that was pretty special.
I bet. I love that, and a great night for sure. I love that you guys so vividly remember all those things as well too. It's pretty cool to see.
Scott, I want to bring something up because I was with a friend of mine, Bill Bradshaw, who played at LaSalle, who was the athletic director at Temple and DePaul and LaSalle, and he played at LaSalle. He and I grew up together. We're together, and he started talking about David Yates. And David Yates was the second baseman for Delaware. He was an All-American in 1970. And I said, I know David. I used to work with David when I worked for Phil Mickelson for a year. And I said, let's call him. I called David Yates, and the first thing he said was, yeah, Ruger was in left field. He had a pulled hamstring. I hit a ball out to him. If it had been left or right, he never would have caught it. I mean, and here's a guy that I played against, and he remembers that weekend and that game. So it's kind of pretty special to have that kind of a memory with somebody who was on the opposing team.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Pretty cool.
And Randy was talking about that as well. And one of the things I asked him was why they kept throwing him, pitches. And, I think he had 7 hits over the doubleheader and stuff like that. But pretty cool. He remembered it clear as day.
He hit ropes I spent, like I said, Arizona State, Long Beach State, some great baseball players. Nobody hit the ball harder than Randy Ruger, period.
Sure. We'll stay with you, Vic. Just update us on your personal life. Where do you live, career, family? You've alluded to.
Well, I summer in Ocean City. My wife's from Philly, and we've had this place for 19 years. And then I knew that I didn't want to do winter. And when I retired, which was last July, I retired from Connecticut, and which has a great baseball program. I don't know if you know Jim Penders very well.
Yep.
Terrific coach. Really one of the top guys I've ever been around. So I miss the action a little bit. I don't miss any of what's going on right now.
Right.
And it's going to be really hard for everybody. I'm a little bit concerned about the haves and have-nots. There's so much money being spent at the Power Fives, and I don't know. I don't want to share anything, and it's all about facilities and bigger and overpaying coaches and whatever it might be. So it gets a little scary. And I have 2 sons, and one played baseball at Rutgers and one played football at Towson. And the younger one, Case, who played football, he's a deputy athletic director at Kent State. And my son, Vic, they were at VCU when they went to the Final Four, both worked together. Now he went to Minnesota, and now he's a deputy athletic director at Albany. So I thought it's bad parenting. My kids are in my business, which I don't own. But they're doing really well, and they just love being around student athletes and coaches. And that's what I miss the most, is not having, those young people around that you spend time with, because they do keep you young. There's no question about it. They will keep you young. So you hang around a little bit longer, Scott.
For sure. You got out at the right time with all these decisions that have to be made. And, I think my decisions are tough, but then I start to think about our athletic director and what Todd and Tim Pavlechko, all those guys have to go through, and all our administrators. A lot of tough decisions on what to do with, with everything that's going on for sure.
But Scott, one thing when you end it all, and I did 71, is like I never had a bad time going to work. I loved going to work, and to go to the College World Series or go to a Rose Bowl or go to the Final Four or whatever it might be, that's pretty special. So you're in a great spot. So enjoy it. Enjoy it.
I love it for sure. And, work for great people and get to recruit good kids and have a chance to win, year in and year out.
I got a couple for you too. I'll let you know.
All right. I like it. Ken, how about you? Update us on personal life.
After I got out of the service, I went to work in Lancaster with RCA, multiple jobs, some management jobs, I guess, at the end. But at the same time, I was coaching at F&M part-time, Franklin Marshall College, and was assistant football coach actually was a defensive coordinator for Bob Curtis, who ended up going to Bucknell as the head coach.
Right.
And I became the head baseball coach. And then I set up a national alumni admissions program, and they kept grooming me for fundraising. And I wasn't real comfortable. I had no trouble setting up a national alumni admissions program because basically we're just asking the alums to interview prospective students. But when it came to asking them for money, I had some problems with that. I used to agonize over those calls. So the guy that was my mentor, a guy named Jim Gelhard, very, very good guy, very patient with me, and did his best to kind of get me going in that. And I just couldn't really do it. But we decided that we were going to stay in Lancaster. So then I had to kind of get out of education and ended up running a business for 25 years, office products business that we started with about $100,000 in sales and 3 employees. And we ended up 25 years later with about 20 employees and $3 million in sales, which I guess doesn't sound like a lot, but it was a major deal. And the coaching and the F&M experience was by far the most enjoyable. Got 3 children. One's a Bucknell guy. He's a civil engineer, runs his own business in the Harrisburg area. I have a daughter that went to Western Maryland. Now it's McDaniel. And I have a daughter in town who was a good hockey player. She went to JMU when James Madison, when they were a top 10 team. Now they all have children. I have 7 grandchildren. For some reason, I have one that's in Boston. She's works for an asset management company. I have her brother just graduated from South Carolina. He's working with a business in what the heck's the name of it? Car business in the management training program. I have a daughter in Maryland, and she's kind of around the Frederick area. She has 3 children. One graduated from Towson, works for the Nationals and kind of the computer ends, kind of support role. He has another brother that works for a company that does a lot of installation of the banners and so forth you see on the decals they put on the floors for like basketball arenas. And then I have Sarah, she's a sophomore at Alabama. Now the 2 kids in Lancaster, one goes to Pitt, one is just on a merit scholarship for music and wants music therapy at the University of Miami. So it's exciting. There's a lot going on with the kids. They have some different thoughts on what's going on politically, and sometimes that creates a little bit of strife.
Sure.
And we're just kind of moving on with staying away from those conversations.
Yeah, I can ditto that.
Yeah.
I understand for sure. Great. Bob, how about you? Update on personal life.
Okay. We have lived on Cape Cod for the past, say, 25, 26 years. After spending time in Pittsburgh, it was our first assignment after graduating from Bucknell, working for U.S. Gypsum, which was a major manufacturer of building materials. Obviously, gypsum board was their big one. After probably about 7-8 years, I was transferred to Atlanta, covering the Southeast from Florida to Texas, and all these were in sales management positions. And when I was in Atlanta, I had asked my boss, and Austin, you might take note of this too. I had just put the word out with my boss saying, my wife and I are from New England. We would love to be considered for any opportunities that would come up, in the Northeast, particularly New England. And it was maybe 6 months went by, and all of a sudden I get the phone call. We have a position opening up as a national account manager for you. I knew my next job was going to be either Milwaukee or Chicago. And I said, well, this is our opportunity to get back home. And home is where we're at now, in Orleans, even though I'm from Connecticut originally. My wife is from the South Shore of Boston. We've been married 52 years. And they have two grown sons, 4 grandkids. And our kids have moved as far away from mom and dad as they could get. One's in Hawaii, and the other one is in San Jose, California. But great places to visit, and we try to get out there as often as we can, or have them come out here. But might be interesting to note, talking about our son out in Hawaii. He got into surfing. He started on Cape Cod. Matter of fact, our other son did as well, but wound up in Hawaii chasing waves. Gradually got noticed as a surfing judge, and ultimately got on the international surfing tour with the top 40 surfers traveling around the world. And now he's got a real job in terms of an international satellite tracking company out of London. They have a huge satellite installation right on the north shore of Oahu. So all the kids are doing well. We miss the grandkids a lot.
That's great. I'm gonna have to talk my daughter into living in Hawaii. That'd be definitely a great place to visit her. She's got a ways to go. She just turned 10 a couple days ago.
Yeah.
But she likes the water. She likes going to the pool. We've been spending a lot of time at the pool. But well, good deal. Austin, why don't you go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah. So the next question is probably the one that your former teammates most want to hear. Who was the teammate you admired the most throughout your career at Bucknell, and why?
We can start with Vic for this one.
Who do I admire the most?
Yeah.
That's a difficult question, because I just, it was a different time, and it was I just had so many good relationships with so many friends, and I was also captain of the basketball team, so those guys were close to me. My college roommate I talked to today, and he'll come down next week, and I admired him because he was never going to change who he was and what he was about, And I really admired Randy Root, because I just thought he was the best baseball player I've seen in a long, long time, and I admire a lot of people, and that's part of being at a place like Bucknell. There's so many good people there, and who achieve academically and achieve athletically and socially and everything else. So I had a great experience. I don't. There's not him more I can add to that.
Yeah. That's great. Ken?
Well, there's two. I agree with everything Vic's been saying about teammates and so forth, but there's a couple that stand out. One, Vic Manuel is. They both had really very good hand-eye coordination. Victor became a general surgeon, very well respected. He used his hand-eye coordination with heart surgery, and very, very. He still has his hand-eye coordination on the golf course. For a guy that's kind of undersized, he smacks the ball real well. And the other guy you probably have all heard about is Jim Albus. He had great hand-eye coordination. Became a PGA pro, was a leading hitter during my time at Bucknell. Really good guy. My wife is a Bucknell gal. We've been married for 57 years. And Unfortunately, she's in a nursing home right now. But anyhow, we go down to the Philadelphia area and watch a tournament that Jim's playing in. Hadn't seen him for a while. And he's a kind of hit his drive. He's walking down the fairway, and there's a rope there that serves as a barrier. And I didn't want to really bother him that much. And I said, "Hey, Jim." And he looks over, and he comes over and talks to us. And the ball, he had hit the ball, but he comes over and gives my wife a hug. And because, she's from Flushing, New York, he's from Staten Island. So, and they used to ride back and forth to school. So, I mean, it was just, Jim Albus was a really special guy, very, very good athlete. Victor is outstanding general physician, still a good Fiji friend. I have lots of other good Fiji friends too that are athletes. Joe Elliott, Joe Frith, a lot of guys that are probably infamous in the Fiji house. But at any rate, it was a great experience for me. And, Bucknell was just a really good place for me.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Bob, how about you?
Yeah, following up, I would say all my teammates, regardless of whether they were on the basketball court or on the field. I mean, we all had something special together, and that was being teammates. But I've got a couple that I could single out. One, Bob Douglas, who played basketball on the varsity with me. He was also my pop at Sigma Chi. And I want to emphasize that relationship was really strong. I mean, for years. He was also an economics major, and I would have to say he was the one that influenced me a lot in terms of curriculums and so forth, which was very important to me, given the amount of time that you have playing two sports at that time. There wasn't much free time, so you had to pay particular attention to curriculums. But outside of that, he was just a great all-around guy. Trying to pick somebody on the baseball team is difficult, but I would say Larry Knoll, my second baseman. I was the shortstop. We were a dynamic duo during our years, and we still keep in touch with each other. Coming out to Bucknell, which I hadn't done for a long time, was largely influenced by Larry saying, "Hey, let's get together and renew our relationship." So I'd like to single him out as well. So all in all, but every player in both, whether it be basketball or baseball, you get to know very well.
Hey, Scott, I just want to add, Tommy Thompson, Ellis Harley, Pete Pedrick, Dick Skelton, Fitz Walling, all those guys, and I'm sure with everybody else here, were special to me. And I spent 50 years on a college campus because of them. And I saw, Sid Jameson, and Sid's still there. So to see how their lifestyle, I go, hey, these guys got it made pretty good. So they impacted my life without me even realizing it until, I don't know, so many years later, saying I wanted to be on a college campus, because that experience at Bucknell and with those individuals, special people, made my life different and special because of those relationships. And I've been successful because of those individuals. So I just want to give a shout out to those guys, because they were pretty special. And I miss Tommy. I always called him. Yeah, I miss Tommy.
I agree with you 100%, Vic. Those guys were awesome.
Me too. And I'd also add Rod Oberlin too, who was a good coach as well.
No, I remember him. Oh yeah.
Some of my favorite times at Bucknell, and I agree with what you're saying as well too. Like, certainly Gene has had that impact on me, and Gene and Tommy in the office exchanging stories was some of the best times. Like, we would waste a whole afternoon, and Tommy would get into it, and they had some great stories of Tommy teaching Gino the game and all that. It really was a lot of fun, and he Tommy would be in the dugout with us, just a great kind of bench coach. He was supposedly working with the umpires and all that, but he wasn't afraid to tell us when we should take a guy out or that either. So I always enjoyed it, and he always did it in a great way, just the perfect bench coach. And I know he was that way with with basketball as well too. But we have time for one more question. We'll start with you, Vic, and just kind of, what are your thoughts about the current state of the program, and what advice could you give me, moving forward, with all your experience in higher ed and college
Well,
athletics?
I just think I think one thing about baseball is, basketball is a different sport than it was when I played, 50 years ago. And I think football has changed too in terms of the demographics of who's playing. And I think there's more kids that are playing baseball. I have 2 grandsons that are playing baseball. They're good players. And Dave Bendix, who's the athletic director at UConn that I had hired 25 years ago at ASU, his kids are good players. And so I think there are more and more kids are good players out there. And baseball is a special sport. And I think that, it's like anything else. You do your homework and recruit the right kids, you're going to be very successful. Even at a place like Bucknell, you got a terrific facility. And, I just think sometimes you just need to, it's difficult now, but it'll swing the other way around. And I think you'll have a lot of success just because a lot more kids playing baseball and they want a great education.
For sure. Thank you. Ken, how about you?
Well, I touched on it briefly before. You guys have just awesome facilities, like you talked about with the turf outside, allows you to practice a lot more outside before other people would be able to do that without the turf. And the inside facilities is a lot better, certainly than Davis Gym. The other thing, I guess, as an old baseball coach at F&M, the showcases are really important, I would think, for you to attend and also to host, because I know Denny Cox, he helps out at Hopkins, and the showcases that they have end up being kind of a fundraiser of sorts for funding their southern trips. So, I would encourage you to keep that up. I don't know how you get your prospects. I know I used to go to a lot of tryout camps, and the problem there is you don't know who's qualified. The positions you're looking for, but you sometimes accidentally mislead kids, especially if you represent a pretty strong academic school. But the showcases are really very helpful. And I don't know, I guess this is something that, do you get involved with any merit scholarships? I guess I'm treading on some thin ice here, but kids that are just baseball kids, I know they have football kids, but do you have just some baseball scholarships too that are based on merit, no aid?
We're just kind of starting to get into it, and really in the early stages of that. Obviously they added them in basketball a while back, and you saw the impact of that, and recently added in football and some of the women's sports, and now we're finally getting to baseball a little bit. We're still kind of a work in progress. Obviously that would make a huge difference. The cost now is probably the biggest difference from when I started, to now. It's just a huge difference in that. And
you compete, or any of the other teams in the Patriot League? Of course, Army and Navy would be, but are there any other of the Patriot League schools that have merit scholarships for baseball?
Lehigh and Lafayette have, they started maybe a little bit earlier on us, and so they've accumulated a little bit more. Holy Cross is kind of similar to us. Just the 6 teams have baseball. So, but yeah, it's a huge part of it. Just the cost of higher ed today has changed it a lot, and that would be a big help. I know for our
even
family.
if it was just 1 or 2 a year, or maybe 1 would be a great start, because you'd have 4 kids at any given time that are merit scholarship kids. That would be great.
Right. And they just put a rule that you can add to the need-based in baseball, and that would only count against, the money you actually add in merit. So, that could be, a good thing, down the road.
Right.
For a lot of schools, with that.
I think you're doing the right stuff, Coach. Keep it up.
I appreciate that. That's getting the right players is a huge part of it. Recruiting, you're only as good as your players. And Vic, I'll be getting with you on a few of those young guys to find out who they are and all that as well. Bob, how about you? Same question.
Yeah, I don't have to tell you how important recruiting is and what you have to offer, compared to other schools, and it's just got to be a certain amount of luck involved, I guess, with kids. But one thing I thought about is, and I don't know, I've been out of it for so long that I'm not up in the mainstream, but networking with other coaches that you might know within the industry that, maybe some of the bigger schools might have a one guy, that is looking to transfer, maybe because he doesn't have an opportunity at one of the bigger schools, but is looking maybe to improve an educational experience. And that's what Bucknell has to offer,
For sure.
as a number one priority. And there's no question, the baseball experience is so specialized now, where it takes, it's almost impossible to play two sports anymore. If you're really going to be competing against everybody else in the same manner. So I would say you're doing a great job, Coach. Keep it up.
Hey, Coach, I just forgot to say something I wanted to say about your schedule too. I think you're taking on some of the best teams. I think that helps to attract some better players also.
Sure.
You're traveling good places, you're playing good opponents, and you're being competitive with them.
Right.
That's all good stuff.
And we might be just one player away from getting to the big dance, if you think of it that way. Same way with basketball. I mean, look how successful the basketball program has. We're not a big, we're kind of like a bottom seed, but I remember Bucknell against Kansas a number of years ago. Everybody was saying, who the heck is Bucknell? Well, you just found out who they are. And I've got a friend who was at the game and was a Jayhawk, and I remind her every day I see her.
But I think that's a good point, Scott. Being out in California and Arizona like I was, nobody knew who Bucknell was, and Pat Flannery did a great job with basketball.
Sure.
And it's a national brand, so you can recruit nationally. Kids want to play baseball, so I know it's difficult in terms of recruiting budgets and everything else, but I think you just got to continue to reach out to the alumni that are out there, and I can help you with that. I got nothing else to do, but it's people know who Bucknell is. They want an education. The Ivy League may not be there for baseball, and Bucknell would be an attractive place for them. So you can recruit nationally. Thanks to Pat Flannery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. I definitely will be reaching out on that. And Bob, you certainly hit on a big ticket item, transfer, kind of market. They have a transfer portal now that is filled up with looking to switch their options. We actually, Furman program, we were able to pick up a couple of their players. And obviously an unfortunate thing. I hate to see that, losing them, but that's definitely a market, and that Bucknell's attractive in terms of
Absolutely.
Degree from Bucknell at the end of the day, especially maybe only having to pay for it for 2 years, is not a bad thing with
Exactly.
that. But it's a great place to go to school, and a lot of kids are interested, and it's just a matter of sifting through it all and all that. But really appreciate you guys getting on with us. This was a lot of fun for me, and hearing your old stories and seeing you guys, talk about that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do it with us. And, I'll let Todd wrap it up from here.
Thanks, Coach.
Good luck, Coach.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
With Austin. And Austin, I want to thank you for taking the time out to join us tonight, and wish you the best of luck as you continue to recover from that Tommy John surgery. We hope that you have a great fall and that you're on the field in the spring. We're all keeping our fingers crossed that, things change from where they are now, and wishing you the best with that. And to Vic and Ken and Bob, thanks guys for making the scheduling work to join us tonight. And thanks for the continued support you show, not only the baseball program, but Bucknell Athletics. And I hope I see all you guys back here for a game in the spring. And Vic, now that you're retired, you can come back, make a big weekend out of it, and play a couple rounds of golf at the Golf Club. It'll be a good time. So thanks again, guys, for joining us tonight. And for those of you that are out there watching, thanks for tuning in, and go Bison.